Alright, so a couple of months ago I'd been searching for an ultra wide angle lens. I had heard about the Nikon 14 to 24, but yeah, the price, it wasn't gonna happen. So what I did was that I ended up hopping on YouTube and I just surfed YouTube ultra wide angle lenses, did my research, see what people suggested. I ended up hearing about the Tokina 16 to 28. I heard a lot of good things about it. I heard it was sharp, I heard that it was accurate, I heard a lot of good things. So after weighing my choices and decisions, I ended up getting the Tokina. The thing is that while I was doing my research on the lens, I couldn't really find a video or an article that would walk me through what the lens can do at different apertures, when it's not so good looking, when it starts to look sharp. I needed something that would show me in detail, that would walk me through, and I really couldn't find that. So I decided on making a video. I think it's worth mentioning that back when I was doing my research on the lens, whether to get it or not, I had come across a couple of articles and a couple of comments on different websites about how there were decentering issues with the lens. If you do decide to get this lens and want to see if it has decentering issues, I attached a link below so you guys could check that out for yourselves. Alright, we're going to go ahead and open Lightroom. Let me just go ahead and find the picture. Alright, we're going to go ahead and start with 28mm f2.8. And if you look at the picture, let's go ahead and zoom in 100%. If you look at the picture, you're going to notice right away that everything's kind of hazy. There's this haze to everything. It's blurry around the window. It's really blurry everywhere. Now, if you guys get this lens, I'm not saying for you to go ahead and shoot wide open at f2.8, big expanses. The reason I'm doing this is just so you guys could get an idea for what to expect from the lens at certain settings. So if we go ahead and move to f3.5, we can see that really there's the haze is still hanging around over here in the corners, up in the trees, in the background over here by the house, the satellite dish, the chimney, the tree in the far background over there. Really very little improvement has shown through. Now if we move to f4.5, there's a big jump in sharpness. If we switch back and forth, 3.5 and 4.5, right away, even zoomed out, you can see that there's a big improvement. Right away, we can see there's a big jump in performance in the rocks down here. The texture in the wall, you could see it a little bit better. The outline of the window is a little bit better. Basically, there's an overall improvement in sharpness. If I really wanted a picture and I needed to have it, and there was low light, I would take a risk and shoot it at 4.5. I would not shoot below 4.5 though at 28mm. Now if we zoom out again and switch to f5.6 and switch back and forth, you could see zoomed out, technically there is a difference, but really to notice the difference you really have to be zoomed in. So if we go ahead and zoom in again, f5.6 to f4.5, you could see that the difference is noticeable, more noticeable when you're zoomed in. f4.5 to f5.6, you could see the rock wall starts to gain more texture. The rocks down here start to gain more texture. If we pan over here to the side of the building, we're going to see that over here, the window starts to gain more texture, more defined. The wall starts to gain more texture. Really everything starts to come into focus a little bit better. If we pan over here a little bit closer to the camera, objects closer to the camera start to gain a little bit more texture. It's very slight, but it is happening overall over the picture. You could tell the difference here also. Now if we zoom back out and go to 7.1 and compare both 7.1 and 5.6, Really zoomed out, again, it's very hard to tell. You can tell, but you really need to look closely. So let's go ahead and zoom in again. Compare the two. You can really tell the texture in the wall starting to come through. The outline of the window, the outline of the door over here, the rocks, the bushes in the background, the house in the background, the tree in the far background. You could tell everything is starting to gain a little bit of sharpness. Let's go ahead and pan over here to the right and compare. See how the rock wall is starting to gain a little bit of clarity. The tree up here, you could really tell also against the sky. A little bit closer to the camera now. It isn't the best clarity at 7.1, but this is basically, I think this is extreme border, yeah. It is still improving at 7.1. Now if we go ahead and zoom out and go to F9, zoomed out, really, again, you can see it's kind of hard to tell a difference in detail or improvement, but really, you have to be zoomed in at 100% to even tell the difference. So if we go ahead and zoom in again, switching back and forth between F9 and F7.1, you can see the texture in the wall. Really, there's a small improvement. There is an improvement. You could see the texture over here is really improving from F7.1 to F9. Switching over here to the wall, again, you could see an improvement in the texture of the rocks. Over here in the bushes, you could see an improvement. Really, the improvement going back and forth is really minuscule, but it is there. So, and it's at this point at around F9 that you can see that really the sharpness and performance really planes out. Now we're going to go ahead and change the focal length to 22 millimeters. Let's see how those pictures compare. f2.8 again, back at the beginning. If we zoom in, well, let's just compare the f2.8s, 28 millimeter and 22 millimeter. Alright, so right away you could see the difference in quality and sharpness, and the performance is a lot better over here. You could tell right away. The rocks show it, the rock wall shows it, the trees show it, the house in the background shows it, the tree in the far background shows it, the texture in the wall. I mean, it's not even a close contest. At 22 millimeters, f2.8, you could see performance is way, way better. If we continue looking around, we can see over here towards the edges, we could see that the window, even the window is a lot sharper over here. The texture in the wall is a lot sharper. This isn't good, obviously. It's not sharp. It's not the best. Obviously, the lens can do better at narrower apertures. But if we compare the f2.8s at 28 millimeter and 22 millimeter, right away, like I said, you could see the difference. Over here in the rocks, I mean, it's not even close. Now if we go ahead and change to f3.5, let's go ahead and compare those pictures. So again, we're comparing f3.5, but at 28 millimeter and at 22 millimeter. And again, right away, you can see there's been a big improvement at 22 millimeters, f3.5. At 28 millimeters, f3.5 still looks very bad. So right away, you could tell the difference again. I mean, the rock wall looks a lot better at 22 millimeters, f3.5 over here. I mean, really, it looks a lot better everywhere. I mean, just go ahead and look for yourselves. Even corner performance is a lot better at 22 millimeters. So if we go ahead and keep narrowing the aperture, we're going to see how these continue to compare. Now we're at f4.5, 28 millimeter, 22 millimeter, and you can see that at 28 millimeter, I mean, it's still bad, but like we had reviewed earlier, it is gaining performance. But again, at f4.5, you could see the difference between 28 millimeter and 22 millimeter. It's a big difference in performance. Everything's a lot sharper. Again, the wall, the window, the rocks over here close to the edge, the corners, the edge over here. Again, while this isn't perfect, you can see that it really outperforms this. Again, right here, the leaves. You can see these are a lot sharper than 28 millimeter. So let's go ahead and move to f5.6. Now, zoomed out, you could tell right away that 28 millimeters has really caught up at f5.6. If you remember at f2.8, I mean, zoomed out, you could tell right away that it looked hazy, blurry, and it was bad. These two pictures, they're really comparable, but let's go ahead and zoom in. Let's see the differences. Again, you could see 22 millimeter f5.6 on both. You could see the texture in the rocks are a lot better. The texture in the rock wall, the bushes back here, the house, the texture of the roof, the branches and the tree in the far background. I mean, really, 22 millimeters is really outperforming 28 millimeters at all focal lengths. Again, the edges over here, you can tell, while this isn't perfect, it's better than this. The edges, again, 22 millimeters outperforms. I mean, really, 22 millimeters is a lot sharper than 28 millimeters. You could tell in the window over here, this at 22 millimeters, this is a lot sharper. The rails are a lot sharper. Again, you could tell over here in the edge. Let's continue narrowing the aperture. Let's see how the pictures continue to compare. Now zoomed out, again, it's hard to tell the difference between 28 millimeter and 22 millimeter at f7.1. So let's go ahead and zoom in. And really at f7.1, 28 millimeters has really caught up to 22 millimeters 7.1, but still you could tell the difference. The rocks aren't as sharp. You could tell the difference there. Again, in the rock wall, you could tell it's kind of still blurry. At 22 millimeters, this is looking pretty good. The performance over here is not as good as this picture. You could see that 28 millimeters has really caught up by 7.1. If we continue to look around, really, there is a slight difference in sharpness between the bushes and everything in the background, but really, I mean, you have to be zoomed in to even tell. Again, you could see the edge performance at 22 millimeters is a lot better than 28 millimeters. You could see all along the wall over here. In the edges, you could tell that it's really caught up, 28 millimeters, but you could still tell that 22 millimeters is outperforming it in the corners.